power and recognition. Two of the most misunderstood pursuits in today's world. Most people chase them as outcomes, when in fact they're side effects. They're not trophies you win, they're reflections of the impact you create. And the truth is, it doesn't take a decade to begin that journey. One intentional week is enough to change the way the world sees you. If you're willing to change the way you see yourself first. Let's start here. Power is not control. It's not authority. It's not the loudest voice in the room or the one with the most followers. Power is clarity. Power is consistency. Power is the ability to move others, not by force, but by influence. And influence begins with one thing: purpose. Day one starts with defining your purpose, not a vague dream, but a grounded, emotionally resonant why. If someone asks you, why do you do what you do? And your answer is about money, followers, fame, you've missed the mark. The people who command attention are those who stand for something deeper. People remember people who remind them of their values. So take a pen and write, not what you wanted to do, but why it matters. Anchor yourself in meaning, not just in metrics. Day two is presence. You must show up in a way that aligns with your purpose. That means refining how you speak, how you listen, how you carry yourself, even online. Consistency in communication builds trust, and trust is the foundation of recognition. Power doesn't come from shouting. It comes from the quiet confidence of someone who speaks with conviction, not volume. Day three, contribution. People remember those who give, not those who take. Spend this day offering value without asking for anything in return. Share your ideas freely. Help someone who can't help you back. This seems counterintuitive in a competitive world, but generosity is a power move. Because the person who gives value first becomes the one others turn to. And in just 24 hours, your reputation can shift from someone who's just trying to get ahead to someone who elevates everyone around them. Day four is courage. To stand out, you must stand for something. There's no power in playing it safe. Choose a message, a belief, a truth, and be bold about it. Not aggressive, not polarizing, but brave. Tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Recognition doesn't go to the agreeable. It goes to the authentic. If you're not a little afraid to hit, post, or say something in the room, you're not saying anything real. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more honesty. Day five is reflection. Audit your week. How did your choices align with your purpose? Did your actions support your values? Did you leave people better than you found them? Becoming powerful isn't about pretending to be more than you are. It's about finally allowing yourself to be exactly who you are consistently and letting that version of you do the work. And the beautiful thing, when your inner world is aligned, the outer world starts to take notice. Power and recognition are not goals. They're signals. They tell you you're on the right path. And when your path starts with purpose, is paved with contribution, walked with courage, and reflected on with humility, 1 week is all it takes to turn invisible into unforgettable. Keynotes of the speech, true power comes from clarity of purpose, not control or popularity. Consistency and presence. How you show up and communicate builds lasting recognition. Offering value without expecting return is a foundational act of influence. Authenticity and courage are more memorable than perfection or agreement. Daily reflection ensures that your actions align with your values, accelerating your impact. True power comes from clarity of purpose, not control or popularity. This is a fundamental truth often overlooked in the race toward influence and recognition. Many people believe that to be powerful, they must dominate others, outshine the competition, or gather more followers and attention. They think power is something granted by status, fame, or external validation. But real power, the kind that lasts and transforms, comes from a clear understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and why you do what you do. That clarity becomes an inner compass, a steady presence that doesn't waver based on applause or criticism. When you're clear on your purpose, decisions become easier. You stop casing everything and start focusing on what actually matters. Clarity allows you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. It gives you the ability to operate with confidence because you know your direction. Most people walk through life in a fog, jumping from one opportunity to the next, driven by what others expect or what seems popular. They burn out, feel lost, or constantly compare themselves to others. But clarity cuts through the noise. It brings stillness in the storm. When you understand your purpose, the need to impress fades away, and the desire to express your truth takes its place. People often confuse purpose with passion or profession. Passion is a feeling, it comes and goes. Profession is what you do, it can change. Purpose is deeper. It's the reason behind the passion. It's the why behind your choices. You can lose a job. Your interest might evolve, but purpose endures. It might be the desire to uplift others, to solve meaningful problems, to inspire change, to teach, to heal, to create. Purpose is not something you invent. It's something you uncover. It's already within you, shaped by your experience, your values, and your deepest beliefs. When you stop chasing what sounds good and start listening to what feels true, your purpose becomes clearer. This clarity becomes your anchor in moments of doubt, uncertainty, or failure. People with purpose don't crumble. They adapt, they pivot, but they don't lose themselves. That's where power comes from, the ability to remain centered while everything around you shifts. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem magnetic or unshakable. What sets them apart isn't their strategy or social media presence. It's their sense of direction. They move with intent. They don't need to scream to be heard. Their actions, words, And decisions all flow from the same source, their purpose. When you live from this place, recognition becomes a byproduct, not the goal. People start to notice you because you're not trying to be anyone else. You're consistent, grounded, and authentic. That attracts attention far more than flashy performances or manipulative tactics. And more importantly, it builds trust. In a world full of noise, the person who speaks with quiet clarity stands out. Clarity breeds confidence, and confidence breeds trust. And trust, more than anything else, is what gives you real influence. Clarity of purpose also eliminates competition. When you know your why, you're not threatened by someone else's success. You're not distracted by trends or desperate to stay relevant. You're focused on service, on impact, on creating value that reflects your truth. That's power. Not power over others, but power with others, the kind that brings people together instead of dividing them. That kind of power creates movements, not just moments. But getting to that level of clarity requires honesty. Brutal, unfiltered honesty with yourself. It means asking difficult questions. What am I doing this for? What am I running from? Who am I trying to please? And it requires listening to your experiences, to your emotions, to your intuition. It means peeling back the layers of expectation, ego, and fear to get to the core of your identity. It's not comfortable and it's not fast, but the payoff is immeasurable. In just 1 week, a person can begin this journey. You don't need to have your entire life mapped out. You just need to begin asking better questions and sitting with the answers. You need to stop reacting to the world and start responding from within. You need to write, reflect, observe, and refine. Each day brings more clarity, and with it more confidence. You'll find yourself making better choices, engaging in more meaningful conversations, and attracting the kind of attention that's not loud, but lasting. In a culture obsessed with gaining power by climbing ladders, clarity invites you to dig deeper roots. And from that depth, your influence will grow quietly, steadily, and undeniably. Because when your power comes from clarity of purpose, you don't just get noticed, you get remembered. Consistency and presence, how you show up and communicate, builds lasting recognition. It's not just about appearing confident one day and disappearing the next. It's not about a single impressive post, speech, or moment. It's about showing up again and again with the same intention, the same values, and the same message. That's what builds trust. That's what makes people remember you. In a world overloaded with constant noise and shifting trends, the people who stay rooted, who speak with a recognizable tone, who act in alignment with their message day after day, those are the ones who rise above the noise. We often underestimate the power of presence. Presence is not just being physically visible. It's about how others experience you. It's the energy you bring into a room, the way you listen, the words you choose, and the emotional space you hold for others. It's not about being the loudest person or always having something to say. It's about showing up with intention. And when you do that consistently, people begin to associate you with stability, reliability, and clarity. Those associations build your identity in the minds of others, and that identity becomes your brand, one that others trust. Think about the people you trust the most. They're not perfect. They're not always polished. But they're dependable. They don't show up one way on Monday and completely different on Friday. You know what to expect from them. That's the power of consistency. And when you bring that same mindset into how you communicate, whether it's through your words, your tone, your visuals, or your demeanor, you begin to shape how people see you, not based on random moments, but on a consistent experience of who you are. Recognition is not built in one viral moment. It's built in the rhythm of repetition. If you want people to see you as a leader, show up like one every day. If you want to be known for your ideas, share them consistently. If you want to be respected for your values, live them out, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. That consistency reinforces your identity. It makes you memorable. Because in a chaotic, ever-changing world, people cling to what feels steady. When you become that steady presence, you don't need to chase attention. It finds you. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your presence needs to be bold, flashy, or unique every single time. But consistency doesn't mean being boring. It means being coherent. It means that everything you do aligns with a deeper message. Whether you're writing a post, having a conversation, leading a team, or presenting a new idea, your presence should feel like an extension of the same values, the same purpose. That's how people begin to know you, to understand you, to trust you. Communication plays a massive role in this. Most people communicate to be heard, but the most powerful communicators speak to be understood. And that only happens when you know your message and stick to it. That doesn't mean repeating the same words, but rather reinforcing the same values in everything you say. It means being clear about what you believe and letting that clarity shape how you interact with others. When your message is rooted in purpose and expressed consistently, people begin to lean in. They know what you stand for, and more importantly, they begin to believe you stand for something real. Consistency and presence is also about emotional discipline. It's about managing your energy and showing up with integrity, even when you're tired, frustrated, or afraid. It's about learning how to regulate your internal world so you don't allow external circumstances to shake how you present yourself. The more you can maintain this steady internal state, the more powerful your presence becomes. People don't follow those who are perfect, they follow those who are steady. And steadiness comes from emotional clarity and practice consistency. In just 1 week, you can begin to build this kind of presence. It starts by being intentional each day about how you show up. It means taking note of your tone, your posture, your focus. It means aligning your actions with your words and choosing consistency over temporary performance. You may not see instant results, but recognition built this way is not fleeting, it's foundational. You become someone others remember, not because you did something outrageous or different, but because you showed up the same way, with integrity, with clarity, and with presence again and again. Offering value without expecting return is a foundational act of influence. In a world where so much of what people do is transactional, where every post, conversation, or gesture often comes with an unspoken, "What's in it for me?" the act of giving with no expectation becomes powerful. It's rare, it's refreshing, and more importantly, it's memorable. Influence doesn't begin when you demand attention or seek recognition. It begins when you give something meaningful to others. Your time, your insight, your encouragement, your expertise, without needing anything back. That kind of generosity builds trust, and trust is the true currency of influence. When you give value first, you change the dynamic. You shift from being someone who takes up space to someone who creates space for others to grow. You become someone people want to be around, listen to, and learn from. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or none at all. People don't remember numbers. They remember how you made them feel. They remember the moment you showed up to help, the piece of advice that shifted their thinking, the encouragement that got them through a hard day. Those small acts of service, when offered without strings, leave the deepest impact. True value is not measured by how grand the gesture is. Sometimes it's just listening deeply when someone speaks. Sometimes it's sharing what you've learned from your own mistakes so others don't repeat them. It could be connecting people with a resource or simply offering encouragement at the right moment. These actions might seem small in isolation, but they build your identity over time. You start to become known as someone who contributes, who shows up, who gives. And people naturally gravitate toward that, not because you told them to, but because you earned their trust through consistent, genuine action. One of the reasons this approach is so effective is because it taps into something universal. People want to feel seen, understood, and supported. Most individuals walk through life wondering if anyone really notices or values them. When you step in and offer value with no agenda, just because it's the right thing to do, you stand out in a profound way. You communicate without words that people matter to you. That's a powerful message in a world that often treats others as tools or stepping stones. Many people believe that giving first puts them at a disadvantage. They fear being taken advantage of or not receiving the credit they deserve. But real influence doesn't come from holding on to what you have. It comes from sharing it. The irony is that the more freely you give, the more others want to give back. It creates a ripple effect. One selfless act can inspire 10 more. And eventually, your name becomes associated with value, generosity, and leadership, not because you demanded recognition, but because your actions spoke louder than your intentions. There's also a deep internal reward to this approach. When you focus on giving value instead of getting results, your stress level drops. You stop obsessing over outcomes and start focusing on impact. You feel more fulfilled because your attention shifts from how others see you to how you can serve them. That shift creates emotional resilience. It builds a sense of purpose that fuels you beyond applause or validation. You wake up not wondering what you can get from the world, but what you can bring to it. This mindset also sharpens your intuition. When you stop trying to manipulate outcomes, you start to listen more closely. You become more aware of what others need, of what's missing, of where you can step in and help. You become more empathetic. And that empathy becomes one of your greatest tools of influence. Because the people who influence us most aren't the loudest. They're the ones who understood us the best, who saw what we need and offered it without hesitation. In 1 week, you can begin to shift your reputation by living out this principle. Each day, focus on giving one thing of value without expecting anything in return. Offer a thoughtful comment, share a helpful idea, encourage someone who's struggling, celebrate someone's success without inserting yourself into it. These small actions compound, they build momentum. And very quickly, people start to take notice, not how much you're trying to be seen, but how deeply you see them. This is the foundation of real influence. It doesn't come from asking for attention. It comes from earning it slowly and sincerely by putting others first, not for strategy, but from intention. When you give like that, without keeping score, people don't just remember you, they respect you. And in the end, that's what lasting recognition is built on. Authenticity and courage are more memorable than perfection or agreement. In a world where people constantly tailor their words and actions to fit what's popular, what's trending, or what's safe, the one who dares to show up fully as themselves, unfiltered, honest, and real, immediately stands out. People are not drawn to perfection, they're drawn to truth. They don't remember those who say what everyone else is saying. They remember the one who had the courage to say something different. Authenticity is not about being reckless with your opinions or loud with your beliefs. It's about being rooted in your values and brave enough to express them, even when it's uncomfortable. There's a reason why certain voices cut through the noise, why some people stay in our minds long after we've heard them. It's not because they were the most polished or the most agreeable. It's because they had the courage to speak a truth that resonated. That courage is magnetic. It signals to others that it's okay to be honest, okay to be real, okay to stand for something, even if it comes at a cost. And the truth is, standing for something will cost you something. Not everyone will agree with you. Some people will misunderstand you. Others might criticize you. But what you gain in return is worth far more: the respect of those who value integrity and the strength that comes from living in alignment with who you truly are. Authenticity is not about saying whatever you think at every moment. It's not about being unfiltered for the sake of attention. It's about being consistent with your truth, speaking and acting from a place of self-awareness. That self-awareness, knowing your values, knowing your intentions, knowing what matters most to you, is what gives your courage depth. Courage without reflection can become noise. But when it's grounded in authenticity, it becomes influence. And influence rooted in truth has the power to create real, lasting change. Many people fear that if they show their true selves, if they admit their struggles, speak honestly about what they believe, or share something that might be unpopular, they'll lose approval. And but they'll also gain something more valuable: clarity. Clarity about who their real audience is. Clarity about what relationships are built on truth rather than convenience. Clarity about what actually matters. The people who pretend to be everything to everyone often end up invisible because there's nothing specific, nothing solid for others to connect with. But when you're real, when you show your scars, your beliefs, your story, you become someone people can relate to, not just someone they look at. Courage is not about having no fear. It's about acting despite fear. It's about speaking up in a room where silence would be easier. It's about saying, this is what I believe, even when you're not sure how it will be received. It's about choosing truth over comfort. And every time you do that, you grow. You get stronger. Your voice becomes clearer. People notice. They may not always agree, but they respect that you're not trying to be someone else. That respect is what turns attention into influence and influence into leadership. When people look at those they admire, they rarely say, I admire them because they were always perfect. They say, I admire them because they were real, because they were honest, because they stood their ground when it would have been easier to back down. That's what stays with people. Not the curated image, but the courageous heart behind it. The irony is that in trying to appear perfect, people often come across as fake. But in revealing imperfections with honesty and courage, they come across as powerful. Because vulnerability, when paired with conviction, creates connection, and connection is the root of recognition. In just 1 week, you can begin to live out this kind of authenticity. It starts with one honest conversation. One moment of speaking your truth without apology. One decision to show up fully, even if you're unsure how it will be received. And as you practice that, your confidence will grow. Not because you're being accepted by everyone, but because you're finally accepting yourself. That kind of courage is rare. That kind of courage is unforgettable. Every time you choose truth over approval, you strengthen your influence. Every time you choose to stand alone rather than go along with the crowd, you build your character. And every time you lead with your real voice instead of a rehearsed version of it, you become someone worth remembering. Not because you were perfect, but because you were bold enough to be real. Daily reflection ensures that your actions align with your values, accelerating your impact. In the rush of daily life, most people don't stop to evaluate where they're going or why they're doing what they're doing. They operate on autopilot, responding, reacting, performing. And while activity can create the illusion of progress, real growth, real influence, and real recognition come from intentional living. That intention is shaped and sharpened through reflection. Not once a year, not once a month, every day. The most powerful people are not those who simply act the most, but those who consistently reflect on their actions and adjust them in alignment with a deeper purpose. Daily reflection isn't complicated. It doesn't require hours of meditation or writing pages in a journal. It requires honesty. It requires 10 minutes of stillness, of asking yourself the right questions. Did I show up today the way I wanted to? Did I stay true to my values, or did I compromise them to fit in, to please, to avoid discomfort? Did I listen? Did I give? Did I grow? These questions don't just help you evaluate what happened. They help you see what kind of person you're becoming. And when you commit to that kind of self-examination, you begin to live and lead with greater clarity. The truth is, you can't become powerful if you don't know yourself. And you can't know yourself if you don't pause to reflect. People who reflect daily are more grounded. They're not easily shaken by setbacks or thrown off course by distractions. They know what they stand for. And because they know, they're able to act with precision. Their words match their intentions. Their decisions match their beliefs. That kind of alignment creates a quiet confidence that people notice. You don't have to convince others to trust you when your behavior speaks for itself. And behavior that's informed by daily reflection becomes consistent, reliable, and impactful. Reflection also helps you see patterns you wouldn't notice otherwise. You begin to understand what triggers you, what fuels you, what drains you, and what inspires you. You start noticing the moments where you shrink back and the ones where you step up. You see where your values are being tested and where your growth is being invited. And in seeing these things, you begin to change, not by force, but by awareness. Growth that comes from self-awareness is more sustainable than change driven by pressure. When you reflect daily, you're no longer being pushed by fear or expectations, you're being pulled by purpose. Another powerful effect of reflection is the humility it fosters. You begin to see your blind spots, your assumptions, your mistakes, not as reasons to feel ashamed, but as opportunities to learn. That humility doesn't weaken your presence. It strengthens it, because people trust leaders who are self-aware. They trust those who can admit when they were wrong, who are willing to evolve, who don't pretend to know everything. Daily reflection trains you to own your flaws without being defined by them. It turns mistakes into teachers and experiences into insight. In a world that values speed, reflection feels like a slowdown. But it's not. It's a recalibration. It's what ensures you're moving in the right direction. You can sprint for a week and get nowhere if your path is off. Or you can walk with intention and find yourself further ahead than you ever imagined. That's what reflection does. It realigns you. It redirects you toward what truly matters. And it reminds you every single day that you're not here to just go through the motions. You're here to make an impact. The people who grow fastest and earn trust quickest are those who reflect often, because they're constantly learning, constantly adjusting, constantly improving, and that improvement isn't random. It's focused. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're trying to be more of who they're meant to be. Reflection clarifies that identity. And the clearer you are about who you are, the stronger your influence becomes. People don't follow those who are always right. They follow those who are always real, always learning, always growing. And that's who you become when reflection is a daily habit, not an occasional event. In just 1 week of intentional reflection, you can begin to notice changes in your presence, your decisions, and your influence. You'll speak with more clarity. You'll act with more confidence. You'll correct course faster. And the best part is you'll stop seeking approval from the outside because you'll have something more powerful guiding you from within, a clear, consistent connection to your own values. And when that connection is strong, people won't just notice you, they remember you. Not for being perfect, but for being intentional, aligned, and grounded in who you truly are. The journey to becoming powerful and recognizable in just 1 week doesn't start with chasing attention or mimicking what works for others. It starts within. It begins with clarity of purpose, the kind that shapes how you think, speak, and act. It is reinforced through consistent presence, where your values become visible in everything you do. It deepens through selfless contribution, where you offer value not for applause, but from intention. It comes alive through courageous authenticity, where you choose truth over popularity and alignment over approval. And it is sustained through daily reflection, where you hold yourself accountable to your growth, your impact, and your integrity. Power is not a performance. It is the result of living intentionally, speaking truthfully, and showing up consistently. And recognition is not something you chase. It is something that finds you when your actions, values, and presence begin to echo in the hearts and minds of others. 1 week is enough to start becoming someone the world doesn't just see, but someone it trusts, remembers, and follows.